At dawn, as the first rays of sun painted the horizon, a persistent knock woke David Martinez, who was peacefully sleeping in his battered Ford Taurus in a Walmart parking lot. At first, he thought it was the police again, ready to evict him from his makeshift home. However, rubbing the sleep from his eyes and peering through the cracked windshield, he saw an elderly woman. She was dressed in a severe navy blue coat and held a leather briefcase, looking like it contained state secrets. "David Martinez?" she asked when he lowered the window. A tremor was in her voice, but it wasn't fear. Rather, it was excitement, or even disbelief. "Yes, that's me," rasped David, his throat parched from another night spent in the stale air of the car. "If this is about the car payment, I already warned them they could take it next week." "No, Mr. Martinez, my name is Constance Fairweather. I'm a probate attorney from California." She took an envelope from her briefcase with his name written in elegant script. "Your grandfather, Sebastian Martinez, passed away last week in Montecito." "My grandfather died when I was 5, David replied automatically. "That's what my parents always told me. A car accident, a closed casket, no questions asked." "That's what your family wanted you to believe," Constance said, extending the envelope with trembling hands. "But Sebastian Martinez died 7 days ago at 91 years old, and Mr. Martinez, he left you everything, absolutely everything." David scoffed bitterly. "Lady, I live in a parking lot. My wife left me for my boss. I lost my house, my job, my dignity. Whatever you're doing, I have nothing left to lose." Constance opened her briefcase and pulled out an impressive stack of documents, bound with official seals and letterheads from well-known law firms. His Montecito mansion, valued at $42 million. A new Mercedes-Benz S-Class, 2 yachts docked in Santa Barbara, and bank accounts totaling $280 million. The papers trembled in David's hands. This had to be a mistake or a cruel joke. Perhaps his ex-wife Brooke and her boss Roger had hired this woman to torment him one last time, giving him hope only to snatch it away. However, Constance continued, and there it was, the catch he had been expecting. "There's one condition. Your grandfather's will states that to receive the inheritance, you must uncover a secret your family has hidden for 60 years. The secret about your grandmother Rosa's death in 1964. "This is insane," David exclaimed, handing back the papers. "My grandmother died in a fire. It was an accident. There's no secret, no hidden fortune waiting for me in California." "Mr. Martinez, do you know that Roger Kemp's father was named William Kemp?" David's blood ran cold at these words. "How do you know about Roger?" "Your grandfather knew everything. He watched over your family for decades, waiting for the right moment. He knew what Roger would do to you. He knew about Brooke. He even knew you would be sleeping in this parking lot." "That can't be." She produced a photograph of David standing in line at the unemployment office 2 weeks prior. Someone had been watching him. On the back, in the same elegant script, was written, "My grandson deserves better." "Your grandfather was many things, Mr. Martinez, but he never lied. The fortune is real. The mansion is real, but so is the danger. The secret he wants you to uncover is the reason he had to fake his death 54 years ago. It's the reason Roger Kemp chose you, and it's the reason your father lied to you your entire life." David recalled the last 6 months. Brooke's laughter as she got into Roger's Bentley, the security guards escorting him from his own office, the first night in his car, and wondering how a man who always did the right thing could lose everything so quickly. "What is this secret worth $280 million?" he asked. "Are we talking about millions of dollars?" David blurted out, unable to stop himself. Constance's gaze became even more discerning. "About the money that destroyed one family to build another. The money that transformed your grandfather from a simple dispatcher into one of California's wealthiest men. About a secret some are willing to kill to keep." She handed him her business card along with a mobile phone. "When you're ready to learn the whole truth, call. But remember, Mr. Martinez, once you step onto this path, there's no turning back. Your grandfather made sure of that." After her luxury car disappeared from view, David remained in his old Taurus for a full hour, clutching the proof that all his perceptions of family were false. And somewhere in sunny California, a vast fortune awaited him, waiting for him to find the courage to claim it. Just 6 months prior, David had been living a life many would consider quite respectable. Every morning, at precisely 5:30 a.m., he would wake up in their cozy Scottsdale home, brew aromatic Colombian coffee in the kitchen he had renovated himself, and admire the golden hues the first rays of sun cast upon the desert mountains. He led a team of 12 sales representatives at a large pharmaceutical company, Kemp Pharmaceuticals, earning a stable $90,000 a year, not including bonuses. Not rich, of course, but a comfortable existence, the embodiment of the American dream, or at least very close to it. Roger Kemp had hired him 8 years ago when his company was half its current size. Back then, he was closer to his employees, personally interacting with each one, knowing them by name, and even gracing David's wedding with his presence. "David Martinez," he had proclaimed at the wedding reception, raising a glass of sparkling champagne. "This is a man who builds empires, loyal, dedicated, tireless. Brooke, you've found a true winner." Brooke had glowed that day in her pristine white dress, her red hair artfully styled and adorned with pearls that had belonged to her grandmother. She worked as a dental hygienist and earned a good living. They had met at a charity run where she twisted her ankle, and David, like a true hero, carried her to the medical tent. "My hero," she had whispered then, and he genuinely believed he was. The Scottsdale house was purchased by David before their marriage. It was a 3-bedroom ranch with a pool he rarely used and a spacious 3-car garage that seemed excessive until Brooke moved in with her luxurious BMW and countless bags of new clothes. He had bought it with cash, using his savings and a small inheritance left by his uncle Roberto. Brooke insisted on immediate renovations right after their honeymoon. "This kitchen looks like it's stuck in the 80s, she complained, "and Roger's guest bathroom looks better than our master." So they embarked on a massive renovation. Italian marble for the countertops, custom-made furniture, a modern steam shower, and a walk-in closet larger than his childhood bedroom. Each new upgrade cost more than the last, but Brooke insisted it was a worthwhile investment. "To make money, you have to spend money, David. Roger says it all the time." Roger did say a lot, and David tried to learn from him. His parents, Gloria and Manuel Martinez, had been happily married for 42 years and still held hands during Sunday family dinners. His father ran Martinez Auto Repair on Indian School Road, a shop he had built with his own hands. His hands were always covered in motor oil, but those hands fed their family and put a roof over their heads. His mother worked at the Scottsdale Public Library, helping children with homework and teaching citizenship classes for immigrants. "Work hard, stay humble, and treat people with respect," his father often repeated. "That's the Martinez family way." His younger brother Tommy joined the Army right after high school. He said he wanted to serve his country and see the world. He was stationed at Fort Bragg and called every Sunday to check in. "How's your corporate life, hermano?" he'd tease. "Still shuffling papers while I'm risking my life?" His older sister, Lucia, worked as a nurse at Phoenix General Hospital, pulling long 12-hour shifts in the emergency room. She never liked Brooke, though she tried not to voice her opinion openly. "There's something about her eyes," Lucia once told him. "They're always calculating. They're always scheming, always plotting." The changes in David's family life began gradually. Brooke quit her job 6 months after their wedding, explaining that she wanted to dedicate herself entirely to making a home. Soon their lives were filled with expensive designer clothes, relaxing spa treatments, spontaneous weekend trips with friends to gambling in Vegas and sunny San Diego. When David tried to inquire about the source of these expenses, Brooke reacted with irritation. "Roger's wife didn't have to account for every purchase," she retorted. "Maybe if you were more ambitious, I wouldn't have to look for sales." At the corporate Christmas party last December, everything changed. Brooke spent most of the evening at Roger's table, while David was busy networking with clients. She laughed at Roger's jokes, gently touched his arm during conversations, and leaned closer to hear his words over the loud music. Roger's wife had divorced him earlier that year, taking half his fortune and moving to sunny Florida. "Your wife is quite a firecracker," Roger told David that evening, clapping him on the shoulder, smelling strongly of expensive bourbon. "You're a lucky man, David." By January, Brooke started staying late at work twice a week. Book club, Pilates classes, sophisticated wine tastings with friends. These were her explanations. Her phone suddenly became protected by a complex password. She would step outside to answer phone calls. During their intimate moments, which became increasingly rare, she seemed distant, as if performing a routine. "You're just paranoid," she'd say when David asked if everything was all right. "Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have to find hobbies." David immersed himself in work, hoping that securing the pharmaceutical contract with Henderson and the long-promised promotion from Roger, promised 2 years prior, could fix everything. He believed Brooke would look at him with admiration again, like a hero, not with disappointment. He couldn't imagine that while he was staying late at work to save his marriage, his wife and his boss were planning to destroy everything he had built for so long. That fateful Tuesday began with Brooke cheerfully humming in the shower. She hadn't hummed in months, but that morning, she sounded like a real Disney princess. She even made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, which remained untouched as David rushed to prepare for his crucial meeting with Henderson. "Today's an important day," she said, kissing his cheek. Her lips were cold as ice. "Everything changes today." David thought she was talking about the Henderson contract, which could bring the company $5 million in annual revenue if he sealed the deal. Roger had promised him a regional director position if he succeeded. The presentation was flawless, 20 slides of market analysis and profit projections. He had rehearsed it at least 50 times. But when David arrived at Kemp Pharmaceuticals at 7:30 a.m., his key card didn't work. A small red light blinked, as if warning of danger. He tried 3 times before Jerry, the security guard he had known for 8 years, opened the door from the inside. "Mr. Martinez," he said, avoiding eye contact. "Mr. Kemp would like to see you. I'm supposed to escort you." "Escort me? Jerry, what's going on?" "Please, just come with me." The walk to Roger's office felt like a funeral procession. Colleagues avoided looking him in the eye. Janet Flores, who had been his friend since day one, suddenly stared at her computer screen with unusual interest. The Henderson presentation materials were still in his briefcase, now utterly useless. Roger's corner office offered a beautiful view of Camelback Mountain. He sat behind his massive mahogany desk, fingers steepled, an expression of strained concern on his face. And there, perched comfortably on the armrest of his chair, as if it were her rightful place, sat Brooke, his wife, in Roger's office at 7:45 a.m. "David," Roger said, his voice imbued with the same fake sympathy David had heard when he fired people, "please, have a seat." "What is she doing here?" Brooke smiled, but it wasn't the smile David had once fallen in love with. There was something predatory about it. "I'm here to support Roger and make sure you understand what's happening." An oppressive silence hung in the office, broken only by Roger's voice as he initiated the harsh restructuring process. He arrogantly slid a stack of termination papers across the desk, dryly stating, "Your position has been eliminated. The decision is effective immediately." Stunned, David reminded him of the crucial meeting with Henderson, which he had tirelessly worked on for the past 6 months. "I'll handle Henderson personally," Roger cut him off, assessing David's work as adequate but insufficient for the company's future growth, which, in his opinion, required stronger leadership. An outraged David countered, reminding Roger of his outstanding results, exceeding his quota every quarter for 8 years. In response, Roger pulled out compromising information from a folder regarding discrepancies in David's expense reports. He emphasized that these violations, while not criminal, were sufficient grounds for termination without severance. David tried to justify himself, explaining that all receipts were documented. Roger countered, pointing to a dinner with Henderson last month, which was claimed as a business expense, although it turned out David's wife was present. This was deemed personal use of company funds. In despair, David reminded him that Roger himself had advised him to bring his wife to the meeting, arguing that Henderson valued stable family men. At that moment, Brooke interjected, her laughter like shattering glass. She exposed David's naivete, stating that she and Roger had meticulously documented all his missteps for several months, including his alcohol problem and inappropriate behavior at an office party. A stunned David tried to object, but Roger displayed a surveillance video from last year's office party. The video was cleverly edited to portray David in an unfavorable light, stumbling, aggressively approaching female colleagues. His words were taken out of context, creating the impression of severe intoxication, though in reality he had only had 2 beers in 4 hours. Roger added that Janet Flores had filed a complaint, claiming she felt uncomfortable with his advances. David protested, arguing that they were discussing her daughter's college applications. Brooke immediately refuted his words, stating that Janet remembered things entirely differently. She also announced she was filing for divorce, claiming that under community property laws the house belonged to her, as she was the primary homemaker. She presented evidence of David's emotional abuse, drunkenness, and neglect as a husband. Furthermore, she emphasized that all improvements and mortgage payments during the marriage were community property, and her lawyer, she claimed, had explained everything to her. To top it all off, David's personal accounts had been frozen until the divorce was finalized due to suspected financial mismanagement. Roger stood up, adjusted his tie, and ordered security to pack David's belongings, giving him only 10 minutes to vacate the premises. He also demanded the company car be returned by 5 p.m. and his laptop, phone, and corporate credit cards be left behind. 8 years, David whispered, his voice trembling. 8 years I built this department. Brooke, standing beside Roger with her hand on his shoulder, contemptuously declared, "Real men don't cry like babies. Maybe living in a car will make you stronger, teach you what real ambition is." Jerry and another guard appeared at the door. As they escorted David out, he heard Roger suggest to Brooke that they discuss her future opportunities within the company. By noon, David stood in his empty office, watching Jerry pack his belongings into a cardboard box. By 5 p.m., he had surrendered the keys to his company Lexus. By midnight, he had parked behind Walmart. His entire life fit into the trunk of his 10-year-old Ford Taurus, the only car still registered in his name. For 3 months, David lived in his car, a ghost haunting Phoenix parking lots. The Walmart on Thomas Road became his bedroom. The Planet Fitness on Camelback was his bathroom until his membership expired. He showered at 5 a.m., hoping the sleepy staff wouldn't notice he wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. McDonald's dollar menu became his breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He stretched 1 McChicken sandwich into 2 meals just to get by. His rapid descent from success was excruciatingly slow. Responses to his resume submissions turned into a monotonous stream of rejections. 50, 100, 200 emails vanished into the digital abyss. It seemed every pharmaceutical corporation in Arizona was aware of the incident at Kemp. Roger had so thoroughly ruined his reputation that even recruiting agencies stopped returning calls. David tried retail, food service, any job. However, the impressive 6-figure sum in the salary field consistently led to the same verdict: you're overqualified. One evening, as David, like a homeless man, parked near a Denny's to use the free Wi-Fi, his brother Tommy called from Fort Bragg. "David, why aren't you answering? Mom's worried sick." "My phone got cut off. I'm using an old one now." "Come stay with us. We'll figure something out." "Remember the fire at Mom and Dad's house? They're crammed onto Lucia's couch. She barely has room for herself." "Then I'll send you money. I have $3,000. "Keep your money, Tommy. I'll get myself out of this." But David wasn't getting out. He seemed to melt away day by day. His expensive suits, like ghosts of a former life, hung in the back seat of his car. He had lost 20 pounds. The rearview mirror reflected a gaunt stranger with hollow eyes and streaks of gray in his stubble. And then came that morning near Walmart, April 15th, tax day, which felt like a cruel twist of fate. A knock on the window at 6 a.m. wasn't unusual. Security guards, police, other homeless people asking for a cigarette. But the elderly woman standing there seemed to have stepped out of another dimension. Constance Fairweather, with impeccably styled steel gray hair and a navy blue coat that probably cost more than his car, looked piercingly from behind her thin-rimmed glasses, as if trying to solve a complex puzzle. After the shocking news of his grandfather's inheritance and Constance's departure in her luxury car, David sat in his Taurus for an hour, rereading the documents. The letterhead was authentic. He found the law firm online, Fairweather, Ashford and Partners, Century City, Los Angeles. The website boasted a gleaming skyscraper and a list of billionaire clients. A letter from his grandfather convinced him it wasn't a scam. The handwriting was identical to that on the birthday cards he used to receive as a child, before his grandfather had supposedly died. But more importantly, the letter contained facts no con artist could have known. "David, you have your grandmother Rose's eyes, and her indomitable spirit. When you were 4, you broke your arm falling from the oak tree behind our house in Tucson. You told everyone a dragon knocked you down because you didn't want to admit you climbed it despite my warnings. That defiance will serve you well in the future. David did remember that tree and the dragon story. But how could a dead man know about it? He called his father from the Walmart parking lot. His father's voice broke when David mentioned Sebastian. How do you know that name? He's dead. He's not dead, Dad, and it turns out he's been alive all these years. Come home immediately, and don't tell anyone about this. The 20-minute drive to Lucia's apartment felt like an eternity. His mind buzzed with fragments of conversations with his parents about their past, stories that didn't quite add up, photo albums with missing pages. Their evasiveness whenever he tried to learn anything about the family history. Lucia's one-bedroom apartment in Glendale was cramped for 4 adults. His parents, like defendants awaiting a verdict, sat on the couch. Lucia, in her nurse's uniform after a night shift, stood by the window, arms crossed. Is it true? David asked. Grandpa was alive all this time? His father looked older than his 65 years. His hands, calloused from working as a mechanic, trembled as he pulled a metal box, which David had never seen before, from under the couch. We need to go to Tucson, his father said. To the old house. There's something buried there, something we swore never to touch. But if Sebastian is truly dead, then the oath is broken. What's in there? Proof, his mother said quietly in her usual reserved voice. About what really happened to your grandmother, about why Roger Kemp wanted to destroy you, about a secret worth killing for. Lucia, full of resolve, snatched the car keys. I'll drive, she declared. David looks like he's been sleepless for weeks. As they settled into her modest Honda Civic, his father addressed David with a serious expression. Whatever that lawyer told you about the inheritance, remember? It's the absolute truth. Sebastian once called me about 10 years ago, after Vicente's tragic passing. He said he was creating something special for us, or rather, for you. David, consumed by curiosity, asked, Why me? His father explained, Because you are his spitting image. You possess an indomitable stubbornness that can lead to losing everything, but you will never compromise your honor, and just as importantly, you are smart enough to rebuild what's lost when the time comes. The 2-hour drive to Tucson lay ahead, time to prepare for a truth that had been brewing for 6 decades. The ruins of the old Martinez estate in Tucson presented an ominous landscape, like a toothless mouth against the vast desert sky. Decades ago, a raging fire had destroyed most of the building, leaving only stone foundations and a few stubbornly standing walls. Weeds pushed through cracked tiles, and rusty gates creaked plaintively on their hinges. It was here, in this place, that Grandmother Rosa's life had ended, and their family history had shattered into fragments of lies. His father confidently led them through the ruins, as if the nightmarish visions that had haunted him for 50 years had become reality. They descended into what remained of the basement, illuminating their path with cell phone flashlights. In the far corner, behind a seemingly impenetrable concrete wall, his father meticulously felt the surface until he found what he was looking for. Your grandfather was paranoid even before he had good reason to be, his father said, pressing on specific points in a precise sequence. He built this sanctuary with his own hands in 1962. The wall, as if by magic, swung inward on hidden hinges, revealing a room forgotten by time. Inside, a massive safe stood tall, like a monument to unsolved mysteries. His father knew the combination, Rosa's birthday, read forwards and backward. The lock emitted a sound like the crunch of breaking bones. Inside the safe lay stacks of documents, photographs yellowed with age, and a modern edition, a USB drive taped to an envelope labeled, For David. His mother carefully pulled out the first photograph. It showed Rosa, beautiful and vibrant at 35, standing next to a man who looked like a darker version of David's father. Vicente, his mother whispered, recognizing Rosa's older brother. His father spread the documents on the dusty table. In 1964, your grandmother discovered that Vicente was using the family shipping business to smuggle drugs from Mexico. He was working with wealthy investors who needed a legitimate front for their criminal operations. When Rosa tried to confront him, threatening to go to the police, Vicente knew he couldn't allow it. A police report dated August 15, 1964, described a house fire ruled accidental caused by faulty wiring. The sole victim was Rosa Martinez, 36 years old. "But look at this," Lucia said, holding up another document. It was a preliminary coroner's report, dated the same day, but never submitted in the official records. Blunt force trauma to the head, inconsistent with fire-related injuries. Sebastian found this report, hidden in the coroner's personal files, his father continued. He spent 2 years gathering evidence, recording conversations, and documenting drug trafficking routes. He had enough information to destroy Vicente and all his accomplices. But then Vicente made his move. Another photograph showed 3 men in a restaurant: Vicente, an older man David didn't recognize, and someone who sent a chill down his spine, a younger version of Roger Kemp's father. "William Kemp," his father confirmed. "He was Vicente's main investor. When Sebastian got too close to the truth, Vicente threatened us. You were just a baby, David. Tommy wasn't even born yet. Lucia was 3. Vicente said we would all burn like Rosa if Sebastian didn't stop his investigations. So Grandpa faked his death. He made a deal. He would disappear, take his evidence, and never reappear if Vicente left us alone. But first, he drained the family business accounts, taking the money that rightfully belonged to Rosa, $50,000. The family saga of secrets, betrayal, and redemption unfolded with each passing minute. Rosa had been due an inheritance of $50,000, but fate had dictated otherwise. His mother continued her story. "We staged a symbolic funeral, presenting his death as a car accident. Vicente watched us for years to ensure our silence. Your father couldn't even run his auto shop freely without Vicente's people watching him." His father picked up. "But Vicente died 10 years ago of a heart attack. A week later, Sebastian called me. It was the first time I'd heard his voice in 30 years. He said those $50,000 had been wisely and legally invested in California real estate in the 70s, tech stocks in the 80s, and then in Amazon and Apple in the early 2000s. He built an entire empire, completely legitimate and unconnected to our family." Connecting the USB drive to Lucia's laptop, David found numerous folders containing financial reports, recordings, and photographs. One folder bore an ominous title, "Roger Kemp, a chip off the old block." The folder's contents were damning. Roger discussed underground drug trials using Vicente's old smuggling routes, bribing FDA officials, experimenting on undocumented immigrants who couldn't complain, and recent plans for David's elimination, devised just months ago. "David Martinez is Sebastian's grandson," Roger's voice sounded in one of the recordings. "If the old man dies and leaves him an inheritance, David might start investigating. We need to ruin him, discredit him, and destroy him before that happens." Brooke's laughter followed. "Leave it to me. He's so trusting and naive. Give me 6 months and he'll be nothing." Constance Fairweather answered the call instantly. "You found it," she stated, not asked. "Everything. Proof of Rosa's murder, drug trafficking, and Roger's current operations. Your grandfather knew you would. He also knew you would have a choice, revenge or justice. What do you think he would have wanted? He wanted you to be better than those who broke your grandmother's life. The FBI has been building a case against Roger Kemp for years. This evidence can close it. As for your inheritance, there's one more thing." "What?" "Check the last folder on the drive." The folder was titled, "Welcome Home." Inside was a video file. Clicking play, David saw his grandfather's face. He looked older than in any photograph David had seen, but he was unmistakable. His eyes were David's, or David's were his. "David," he said, his voice strong despite his age, "if you're watching this, you've learned the truth. Forgive the years of lies, but I would do it again to protect you. The money, the houses, the yachts, these are just things. The true inheritance is freedom from fear, the safety of family, and the ability to live with truth, not secrets. Make Roger Kemp answer for what he's done, but don't let revenge consume you. Build something better." Rosa would have wanted that. At the end of the video, he showed David's photograph taken months ago near the unemployment office. "I've always watched over you, mijo. Now it's your turn to fly." 6 weeks later, David stood in his grandfather's Montecito mansion, watching the rising sun paint the Pacific Ocean in golden hues. The same son, but the world had changed. The estate spanned 15 acres of manicured gardens overlooking the ocean, and the main house felt more like a museum than a living space. 22 rooms were filled with art and memories of a man David had never truly known, but who had known everything about him. The FBI responded immediately after the evidence was handed over. Roger Kemp was arrested at his country club, led out in handcuffs before his astonished golf buddies. The charges read like a thriller novel: racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy, bribing federal officials, and conducting illegal drug trials that led to the deaths of 12 people. Brooke, an accomplice in fraud and criminal conspiracy, found herself behind bars. Her expensive clothes and luxury car meant nothing within the walls of a federal prison. The divorce proceedings were annulled due to the exposed machinations. The court was unsympathetic to her claims, given how she had conspired with her boss to criminally destroy David's life. David recovered his house, though he planned to sell it. Too many memories of betrayal permeated every corner of that dwelling. His family moved to California within a month. His father sold his auto shop to his best mechanic and bought a new one in Santa Barbara. His mother found a job at a library, running children's programs. Lucia started working at a hospital with a regular schedule. Tommy, after serving in the Army, enrolled in college to study business. They all lived close enough to gather for Sunday dinners, but far enough to have their own space. Janet Flores called David, tearfully apologizing. Roger had threatened her daughter's scholarship and promised her a promotion if she supported the false harassment claims. David showed understanding, knowing that fear could push people to terrible acts. He offered Janet a job at his new company, and she gratefully accepted. That company was his grandfather's last gift. He had left detailed instructions for Constance Fairweather to establish a pharmaceutical company that would operate honestly, without bribes or trials on desperate people. Profits would be smaller, but sleep would be sounder. David poached Roger's best researchers, those with a conscience and a desire for justice. Within 6 months, they planned to begin trials for affordable insulin that could change millions of lives. The prosecutor called it the largest case of pharmaceutical fraud in Arizona history. Roger's empire crumbled overnight. Investors fled, employees scattered. His reputation was destroyed. Roger received at least 20 years in prison, and Brooke received 5 years, losing everything she had tried to steal. David didn't gloat over their downfall. Instead, he sought to understand who Sebastian Martinez truly was by studying the things he had left behind. His grandfather's study held thousands of books with his annotations, dedicated to philosophy, business, and history. All of them sought an answer to the question, how to survive evil without becoming evil oneself. He found the answer in patient justice that doesn't burn everything down, but builds something better, awaiting true justice. He transformed $50,000, obtained through criminal means, into legal wealth earned through intelligence and patience. He protected his family from afar, even when they didn't know it. In his greenhouse grew chili peppers, just like Rosa had cultivated in Tucson. He preserved her memory by tending to her beloved plants, cooking her dishes, and speaking to her photograph in Spanish. Love doesn't die with a person's passing. In that garden, surrounded by the evidence of his grandfather's patient love, David understood the main lesson: the world tries to break us, people betray us, and we lose everything that seemed important. That's when we truly learn who we are. Some break and remain broken, embittered, and insignificant. Others rebuild themselves as weapons of revenge. But the fortunate ones, the strong ones, reforge themselves into something better, transforming pain into purpose and loss into lessons. His grandfather had left him not just money, but proof that patient justice triumphs over revenge, creation over destruction, and love survives even after decades of separation. True strength isn't about never crying or commanding respect through fear, but about protecting loved ones, even if they never know it. Rosa Martinez died seeking justice, Sebastian Martinez lived achieving it, and David Martinez strives to be worthy of them both.